Hey everyone, welcome to Collector Chatter. I am your host Miguel here, my co-host Charlie. And in this section of the episode, we're going to talk about Funko Dorbz. Do you remember those?
Yes. All right. So everyone, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's chat Funko Dorb.
All right, now it's time to chat about Funko Dorbz, and not just Funko Dorbz. It's funny to say when you say it multiple times, but I want to talk about this line, the Dorbz line in general, and kind of just talk about why we thought, this line didn't last as long as, maybe they thought it would. Why is it gone? Like, what went wrong? What do we think about the line? And then also, I wanted to kind of throw in a couple other random lines that Funko has done because they've done a bunch of different things,
Oh, yeah.
but a bunch of stuff that maybe just didn't last too long and didn't go as well either, and just kind of give our input, in that. But I kind of wanted to start off just with just some basic information about, Funko Dorbz in general, in case you guys don't know. If you're watching here on YouTube, I'll pop up a couple pictures of a few Dorbz you guys can see. But if you're listening on the podcast, basically Funko Dorbz was a line that they came out with from 2015 to 2019. So a little over 4 years or so that they ran through these. And it actually was called Dorbz because it's supposed to stand for adorbs, which is adorable, essentially. So these were supposed to be adorable, cute little things. And if you've ever seen it, it's somewhat similar to a Pop's, got like a big head, but it always had a big head and came down to like a little
Small
triangular kind of small body. And the faces were always like smiling and like very like, cheesy, whatever the character was, versus where the Pops, they kind of follow along with what the character
They look
is,
like.
whether he's serious or smiling, whatever it is. So yeah, that's the whole adorable aspect to it. They're usually about 3 inches, although they do make a 6-inch XL Adorbs XL, which was a 6-inch version. They only had a few of those. That was very, very limited. They also have had a few multi-packs. And then we even got like a mini versions, which they actually called Pint-Size Heroes, which was essentially like, I don't think it was officially it, but it was pretty much Adorb.
Yeah, had the same body type. It
Like
wasn't
literally
officially,
like that. Yeah, it was like a big head with a little body, and it was literally like this tiny. But yeah, overall, I initially remember seeing Dorbz and I was kind of like, oh, those are kind of cool. And I didn't really, get too into them. This is early on getting into Funko and getting into the Pops. And this was before sodas. So I was strictly just into Pops. And then they kind of ended. They stopped making them. And I remember some collectors having them, people on IG back when IG Live auctions was like the thing. And then Whatnot came out and basically took that over. And then seeing, people selling them through there. And I never had any. And it's so crazy. It's been, I got to look at the date on the box, but it's probably been a year since I actually made a purchase. I think it was through Gemini Collectibles. Yeah, because they do sell. Like if you go on Gemini Collectibles, I've shot them out before. I get a lot of sodas for them. They have categories of different lines, and Dorbz is one of them, and they still sell them. They sell like a bunch of other ones, which other lines that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but they sold those. And I was like, you know what? They have a lot of horror ones. That's one of their bigger lines. And I was like, these are pretty cool. Let me get them. They were cheap. They were like on a crazy sale. Screw it. So they're still in a box because if you guys don't know, you watch my Pop Makes channels, I do unboxings. I have not shown you guys these yet because I haven't opened them. And it's not because I didn't want to. It's just because they're kind of to the side, and I'm waiting for a good time to like drop it. I'm like hoping
now it's probably a good time.
Yeah, so maybe Dorbz will come back, or maybe something will be crazy. But I always get like sodas and new things, and I'll open those instead. But like they'll be opened eventually at some point. So those will be my official only Dorbz that I own. Do you own any Dorbz?
I actually,
right off the bat?
I do. I actually have a
Okay.
decent amount of them.
So this is the thing. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I was a pretty big fan of, like, I have like a Pirates of the Caribbean one with, I actually have two of them. One that has like a skeleton in it, and one that has like the OG pirate that was in the ride in Disneyland before they like changed it to Captain Barbossa. And so it was in the ships. I have like a Tuscan Raider on like a bantha. Like I actually thought like I have a lot of like I think they were called rides.
Yeah, Dorbz
Dorbz
rides. They
rides.
do have
I
those. Yeah.
loved that line because they weren't as big as like the pop rides that we get, but they were pretty detailed. And I have a decent amount of Star Wars ones and Disney
Yeah.
ones. So I would like I did seek some of them out at times. Like at one point, I know the Disney store was getting exclusive Star Wars ones. So I have like a Vader holographic one. I have some of them all the way up to like when the Solo movie came out, I was getting them. Like I have a Lando, like a Donald Glover, like Lando one. Like, so yeah, long story short, I have a decent amount of them in my collection.
Yeah. So like I think I maybe ordered like 10 or something, like a good amount. But yeah, I never had any of them. But like I think they look cool. I mean, they some people could say like pops are like so simple, but like to me, they're like I always want to try to describe this the best way, but like to me, like a pop is like simply detailed. Like if that makes sense. Like I feel like there's not much to them,
Yep.
but whatever they do put is a perfect detail to tell you exactly the
Who it
character. And it
is.
looks just like, even though they don't have the nose, even like a tiny little thing, it still looks like whoever the character is. I don't know. There's something that they do. And it's like, I think that's a main reason why a lot of people like, not a main reason, one of
Why
the
they
bigger
become
reasons
so
why people
successful.
actually like Funko Pops. Yeah.
Yep.
So with the Dorbz, I feel like it's the same thing, but just like a very kiddish, smiley version. But you can recognize the character, whether it's the outfit or hair or whatever colors they are. And yeah, you kind of touched on it. Star Wars is a huge, like there's a ton of Star Wars Dorbz. There's a ton of Disney ones. Marvel was actually the first wave, like the first few that ever came out were Marvel. Then they have some DC ones, and then like I said, horror ones as well. Like there's a ton of fandoms in the Dorbz. So like just like with Pops, I mean they came out after Pops, but they followed along that same process of coming out with different lines. They did it. I think the boxes are cool. Like I like how they're like a small little box, very small square. You got that window, like a circle window. They actually have a window on both sides, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they do, right? So you can see the front and the back, which I always thought that was kind of cool too. That's like a unique way, the difference between that and a pop. But yeah, I thought they were cool. I just didn't initially think of getting them. And I know some collectors and some YouTube pages and people, YouTube channels, sorry, that have like tons of them. They have them in their backdrop and stuff. And yeah, in 2019, because that's the last time we got them, they stopped making them. And I always wondered, like, why? Like, why? Is there like a specific reason? Was it really just that they just weren't selling? Because obviously they're still available at random resellers and company, other businesses that happen to sell Funko products. You can go to, I feel like if you go to like an old comic shop and stuff like
They'll
that,
have
you'll
them.
find Dorbz. Like, yeah, that's like a thing you find because that's just like, where they are now. They're not being sold at a major retailer. But do you think there's like a main reason, or what's your thought? Because like I kind of have an idea of what maybe, but
Yeah.
I feel like it would have to be sales driven.
I think ultimately they weren't selling enough to continue the line because they were definitely pushing them. I mean, one, there was con exclusives, which I think the sodas have replaced that. So we would get like New York, San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, just a select few, just like we do, like I said, sodas.
We even have some
like
Freddy's too, I think.
They do.
Freddy's.
And I mean, once again, like I know this is big. I told this story on one of the past podcasts. When I went and met Mike at the like office in San Diego, I mean, that entire decor there was Dorbz, like life-size Dorbz. They had a ton of
When
them
was
in
that?
there.
You remember the year?
Yeah, it was maybe 2018. So
the year before they stopped making them.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
So yeah, they definitely, I'm just gonna go with it's not selling because let's be real, like the fact that you can still get them on Gemini, like if that was like like I know right now you can go on there, you can get like the Netflix Daredevil series, for example. Let's just pretend those are the pops. Like they would not be there. So that just shows like they just I also think some like, I don't know, the whole adorable look. Like,
Yeah.
that's stuff like that does not bother me. Like, I just like collectibles. I can see some people be like, this is just not for me. Like a
Yeah.
bunch of like they're hardcore. I want to get into this later, not to turn this into a soda episode. I think a lot of their failed ideas brought them to Funko Soda. And like that's like the champion of a lot of their
Yeah.
failed
Which has
ideas.
just like really held strong. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, I think the adorable aspect of it, like, that whole like thing and the look and whatever, like people just didn't like the way it looked. I think that's also a reason why sometimes sodas don't sell. Some people just don't like the way the
They look.
soda molds are, the way they look. But like I think the hardcore Funko Pop fan for the most part is pretty stuck on like only liking a Funko Pop. Although we have people obviously like us that like multiple things, overall, I feel like it wasn't enough. So like, yeah, it clearly wasn't selling. I'm assuming they were making profits, whatever it was, and it just kind of stopped. And like, like other lines and waves and things that they do, that happens. Obviously, it comes and goes. But it is an interesting thing that you said. Like, yeah, like I just think that they just obviously weren't making money in the sense of like enough to make a profit, whatever. And then they
Yeah.
decided to just not continue on and making the lines. And these sites that are still selling them probably have like big amounts of stock. And I just think a lot of people don't know that they're selling them, not that like they're in high
No, yeah,
demand, but
yeah.
I bet you there's people that just don't know, one, that you can find Dorbz on places like Gemini and all these other places, or like new collectors, because remember this was 2019, so it's already been 3 years. New collectors probably don't even know what a Dorb is or know that
Is
it exists, in a sense, like in general, that it was even something that was made for them to like even purchase. So that's the only reason why I think like that, not the only reason, but I think that's like a reason maybe.
I also think they made too many. As Funko does with a lot of stuff, and I get they're a business, like they went overdrive, like I think they're now doing with the sodas.
Yeah.
They just kept pumping them out, because they must have been selling in the beginning, especially I think for them to have gotten the coveted like con exclusive spot, but then they just, I think, were, you know, sitting on the shelves.
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately, I mean, obviously, like they had so many different lines and they were coming out with so many different versions, like you said. And they even like have not just like multiple characters, like they have, I know they have like Batman. I think I actually got a couple of Batman ones with that order that I got. They had different colored Batmans and different
They did
versions and stuff like
chases
that.
too, I think.
So, yeah. So they were doing like a lot of like that kind of thing. And they were just coming out, pumping out a lot of them. So obviously, like that obviously just didn't do so well. So yeah, it's an interesting line. I just like kind of I just had a thought process like, let's just talk about this line that's like something that kind of was here for a little while, obviously sold for a little bit. That I do think the rides ones look super cool. I mean, like
Yeah.
they make a Batman ones in there. So like they make a bunch of those that are pretty awesome. But basically like with the other like a couple other lines like that I noticed that sold for a little while was Hikari. That was a line that they went from
Mhm.
2014 to 2019. There was also another one called Funko 5 Star, which is about 18 to 19. So that one only lasted for a little while. We
Those
also
are
had
weird.
yeah, those were like a weird looking one.
I have
Vinyl, which I
one.
have some vinyls. The vinyl ones are cool because they're always like 2 packs. That was 2017 and 2019, so that didn't last too long. And then Vinyl Idols was another one that only lasted like a year. These were all like just different style bobbleheads, different style figures, action figurines, that kind of stuff. So like those kind of were like, some stuff that didn't hit. Seems like 2019 was a big year that a lot of stuff kind of stopped, which is
Yeah.
interesting. And I was like before the pandemic essentially. But then that's also kind of when we started getting more pumped out pops, and then when sodas kind of came around. So that's kind of like their, like you said, like their new product that they did. And it was after these lines basically. And like, yeah, some of them were cool. The Hikari line I thought was always cool. I don't have any of those, but those are pretty big and very interesting looking. It was like kind of like a Japanese, I
Yeah.
think,
I
like
have a few
style.
Star Wars ones.
Yeah, and they make a bunch
Um,
of those.
Like that was like one thing which I feel like we've talked about this in the past few episodes, like the Smuggler's Bounty or the Collector Core box. Like back in its heyday, you would get a pretty nice sample of all different Funko products that were happening at that time. Like that's where I have some of my Hikari ones. They're from the Smuggler's Bounty. I
Yeah.
have the pint size ones we were talking about earlier. I have some of those that have come from like the Marvel's Collector Core, the wobbler one, like the updated version of the wacky wobbler. I've gotten
Yeah.
those from the collector core. Even rock candy, I think, was a
Yeah.
line that we didn't talk
Yeah.
about.
Rock
I've
candy.
gotten
Yeah.
those from the box. I've never bought any of these on my own besides Dorbz, weirdly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was like, I've always loved that about the boxes. You got a sample of other products they don't really do anymore.
Yeah. Which was probably their way of kind of like getting them out there because they weren't really selling.
Yes,
Because
which was
some of them
smart.
were, yeah, because I think I even pulled like, I think maybe it was in a box. It was like a Black Panther. I
Yeah,
think
that one's
that's a
from us.
wobbler, I think,
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
from the Marvel Collector Core.
Marvel box. Yeah. So that was a cool one that I had, and I was only through that. Like I never would have purchased it. But like even though like the 5-star ones, I've seen those in like a little like toy shop at the mall where I work at. There's like a little random toy shop that has like board games, and they have some Funko products, and they have those, and they have a few horror ones. And that kind of almost looked like a door, but it was like
Yep.
smaller with the window, and then
They
you
have more
open up the
detail.
flap. But the actual figure looked more like a detail. It was like the box was set up with a little window, though, like kind of like how that one was. But yeah, it's
It's
just
so
like
it's
it's
funny you bring
weird
that
how
up
they have
though.
these.
So like the other day I was like cleaning up some of my pops and I noticed I had a 5-star Harry Potter, which I got in like Harry Potter like GameStop box. But once again, just kind of throwing in these different products. Like
Really?
I like totally forgot about that line. Like I don't ever really like that had absolutely no buzz. I feel like that crashed and burned pretty
Yeah.
quickly out of any of the lines we're talking about right
Oh yeah, that thing, the 5-star one.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was only a year. It only went from
Yeah.
2018 to 2019. So like, and like I said, I've seen those like in this random toy shop, and it's not like a Toys R Us or a big major store. It's like a random store in a mall that sells toys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny that they have those. So yeah, it's just it's interesting that like a major big company like Funko, obviously they're gonna have their things, and I know people think, oh, like sodas aren't gonna last, so they're doing it. I think that's a different thing. I think they're doing so many of them and they're pumping them out, but they're selling nonstop. I don't see these really going anywhere, and I think they're going hand in hand with Funko Pops now, and those are going to be their two major lines going forward. I could see. I know gold is like a new one that they're trying to get in there, and surprisingly it's definitely doing more and lasting longer than I thought it ever would have. But like,
Do
is
you
that
think
going to
that's
go a couple
Funko?
years?
Yeah. I think the gold is lasting because like Funko wants it to last. And I don't know why. I don't know if they
Yeah,
have
they're
these,
pushing it hard,
which
they're
we talked
marketing it
about in our
hard.
gold episode. If you
Yeah.
haven't watched that, like go watch it. But I feel like they have these plans that we don't know yet about that line because if it's just sticking to what they're doing, I don't see how it will last.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how, like, I think it's like it may, but I think they're putting a lot into it, a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of marketing, a lot of, they're getting their athletes showing up and showing off these things. They have that huge display and that thing in Hollywood. So it's obviously something that they're really trying to push. Like, how long will it go? It's only been like a year, 2 years, whatever, since we got gold. So it's still pretty early on. So like it's kind of outlasting a couple of these lines, but will it make 4 or 5 years and outlast Dorbz and Hikari for their time?
I don't think
Who
so.
knows? I don't think so either, but like I don't know because we're in it right now, so it's hard to see like it just randomly stopping. But I think that's the only one that I could see like of new stuff kind of stopping. And obviously there's other things that they're randomly coming out with here and there, but like that's like the major one I think compared to pops and sodas. That like they still have mystery minis and all those small things, and those kind of just come and go keychains and all those. Like they'll continue to make those because they're kind of just offsets of like Funko Pops almost. But yeah, that's an interesting like thing, like this whole Dorbz and everything. And like I said, some of you listening to this might not even know what Dorbz are. May have never had one. No Funko like made these.
Yeah.
And again, I just chose Dorbz because I feel like of those lines, like of the ones that are like gone and forgotten, it's like the one that I feel like was still kind of the coolest one and like
I
had
completely
so
agree.
many made that it was a good line while it lasted. And if you can grab some, definitely try to grab some. Like I said, go to Gemini because they still have some, and a few other sites will get them here and there. But yeah, it's an interesting line. I think I'm a fan of it. I'll open up mine eventually because, like I said, the box is literally sealed. Like the brown box from Gemini is still sitting over there, so it's funny. But I'll definitely have to open those up. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this portion of the episode. Just talking about Dorbz in general, lines from Funko that kind of didn't make it, and obviously there's fads and there's things that are gonna come and go, and like what's hot now, and it's interesting. But in my opinion, Funko Pops obviously and sodas will continue to reign supreme. And I think the gold will last a little bit. I think it'll surprise us, but I don't know if it'll continue. But who knows? I mean,
I feel like we need
Funko keep making them.
Funko needs to like make a stance, like make some con exclusives of them. I feel like, or some Funko. Well, I guess there's been what, 2 Funko Shop exclusives of it. A Biggie one.
Yeah.
There's
Russell Wilson.
Like, I feel like they need to do a little bit more stuff like that and see how that sells. Because we've talked about it in the past. It's just like, I know,
like we
social
said,
media
definitely sells.
Yeah,
because they wouldn't be making them at all if they weren't selling. So it's
social media has obviously come a long way since the day of the Dorbz. So we don't have as many like I've said this before. The gold line is like the butt of the joke. I feel like in the Funko community in the social media world.
Yeah,
like
true.
You can never find the chases sit on the shelves. Like that would never happen with the Funko Pop. I feel like people who find chases in the wild of Funko Pops of lines, they don't even collect, they buy just because it's a chase.
Yeah. So true.
Well, comment
know,
like
though.
let us know. I want to know your opinion. Am I nuts about the gold? Like, I don't want it to not succeed. I said in the past in our gold episode, if they made like those types of figures and Star Wars figures, or which I know they probably can't, or like Marvel, I would buy them.
Yeah.
I have my Zach Wilson one on pre-order, so that'll be my first one. So I'll finally have one in person. But yeah,
definitely let us know, like whether it's like the gold line. What do you think? Obviously, this isn't a gold episode. We have that episode, but yeah, you could just chime in. But even more specifically to the main topic of just Dorbz in general, like, do you have Dorbz? I feel like everyone could kind of be like, oh yeah, I have a Dorb. I have a couple. Like, I feel like most people I've spoken to.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts of it and why it kind of ended. And some of these other lines like Hikari and Vynl. I actually like the Vynl line. I think that one was awesome, and I like that they're like 2-pack lines. But yeah, any of those lines, like, what are your thoughts and maybe why they ended and what ones you want to bring back? And if you thought, like it was a mistake that they made it, or if it was a mistake that they got rid of them, like, what are your thoughts? I would love to hear it. Make sure you're commenting here if you're on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, head over to YouTube. Make sure you're checking out, so you guys can see the visual side of stuff, and then you also can comment to us, and we like responding to you guys. So that's going to be it for this portion with the Dorbz and just kind of like the forgotten Funko lines, huh?